Counting down the days, folks. March 4th is just a few away as we're right looking at March 1st, right this second. So how about that? We will have spring football news very soon here in the next couple of weeks. For right now, we will speculate as we often need to do. But football on the field is approaching fast. Talking Canes right here at the Voice of College Football each and every Wednesday night with you, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Got Alex Perez, who hosts our Canes post-game show with us tonight. Alex, how you doing tonight?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. I am good. And let's just start with some basic questions because we are just a few days away. So spring football practice. And meanwhile, folks, of course, drop those comments and questions. Super chat as well. Available there for you. And we will get to all of your comments and questions. But the most obvious would be position battles. Those are always intriguing. So what would be the ones that come to mind for you to be the most important?
Off the top of my head right now, defensive line, running back, and probably wide receiver. I'll start with running back. I think if Mark Fletcher hadn't gone down in the bowl game, it would be clear that he's the number one guy, but the news came out, I think either last week or earlier this week, where he's going to be missing spring. He's not going to be practicing, so it'll be interesting to see who can really step in there, especially when you look at the fact that you have the absence of a guy as talented as Don Chaney, who obviously took his talents to Louisville. Wide receiver, we know we got a X there. We know what Jacoby George can do, but who can be that other guy on the outside to take the place of Colby Young, who had great speed for his size and was such a great outside threat? We just really weren't able to capitalize on it due to the, let's just say, lack of play at the quarterback position last season. And then D-line, we've lost some. We lost Leonard Taylor to the NFL. We've lost some other guys. How does Ruben Bain step up? How do a lot of this young D-line class that's coming in, the best D-line class in the country, how do they integrate? How do they compete for snaps? How's it all really going to look? It's still spring. This isn't going to be the final roster. We know we're going to have guys out and potentially bring some more guys in. Maybe another big wide receiver on the outside. But, it should be interesting, especially with all the hype around this season with getting Cam Ward and building off the 5-7 season that we had in 2022.
So especially with the skill position battles, because it involves more, of course, the ball handling and the speed, there's typically a list, priority list in the fans' mind of if everything goes well and these players get it, meaning they learn the scheme, they take care of the ball, they do all the things, for running backs, they don't fumble, they pass protect, then they can cut loose on the things that we want to see them do, like run with the ball, catch the ball out of the backfield. So if they're taking care of realistic expectations, what is the talent pecking order? Like, who would you want to see be the guy in the fall that's getting the most carries? And then who should be number two and maybe a third guy?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see someone like Trevante Citizen. A guy who hasn't played in the last 2 years simply due to injury. He tore his ACL before his freshman year, didn't play at all, was still in recovery, and didn't get in last year. This was a guy that in 2022, all you were hearing out of spring and training camp was he's a beast. He's going to be an immediate impact player as a freshman. And sadly, we never got to see that. We were robbed of it. At wide receiver, I'd like to see one of the young guys step up. And that doesn't mean just freshmen, but also someone like Ray Joseph, where we know what Xavier Restrepo brings to that slot position. I'd argue he's probably the top slot receiver in the country, and I don't think many people could argue with that. But can someone like Ray Joseph get in there and take some snaps with the speed that he provides? He could be a very dangerous weapon in the slot, and especially in an offense like Shannon Dawson, who has the air raid elements and wants to spread things out and get these guys in space.
The best slot receiver in the country. So I'm not prepared to argue that. That's just a big statement, though.
You got a guy who got 1,000 yards out of the slot, and there was a few games where he wasn't even really getting the ball thrown to him just because the quarterback position wasn't living up to what we were expecting last year. And he's still Is he the biggest? No. Is he the strongest? No. Is he the fastest? No. But he gets open and he creates space and he catches the ball. He doesn't have many drops, and that's really what you want out of a good slot receiver.
Falconer TRX, appreciate you being here, man. Super sticker to get us started. Thank you so much for that. Also want to note that I got a note on Facebook. A really nice note from Dylan Shirley, who watches the show, but typically can't watch it live, so we don't hear from him directly, but certainly wanted to know how to donate. So thank you for that. Had a question for Cam, so we will save that, Dylan, for next week when Cam's back. So we will catch up with you. But thank you so much for the kind words, Dylan, that you watch every week. Must-see show, all the good things that you had to say about what we do here at the Voice of College Football. So thank you so much for that. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App are preferred as well. But we got the super chat available, so thank you for that. Falconer TRX with the U needs an NIL turf sponsor 12-month season. So Alex, you're not aware, but there's this whole turf. There's behind the scenes kind of a inside joke between Falconer X and myself on turf. So that goes way back. All right. So 2025 recruiting class off to a great start. Of course, depending on your service, the 2024 class is either number 3 or number 4 in the country. And so Mario Cristobal doing what he was brought to do and what he's got the reputation of doing. Nick Saban, I think, actually called him the best recruiter in the country at one point.
Yeah.
So your thoughts about what is the latest news, what it could be rumbling under the surface in regards to any guys that may make a move here in the next couple months?
Well, really, when you look at it, it's off to a better start than a lot of the classes that Mario's had in the past, where normally around this time in late February, March, like we're still in the 50s. You know, they're still obviously ranking people, but like these rankings change. We've seen it over the last 3 years where Notre Dame around this time into the midsummer is like around number 1 or 3, and they'll drop a little bit. Not saying that Notre Dame doesn't recruit well, but it's very hard to stay from wire to wire in the top 3 or at that number 1 spot. You know, it'll always fluctuate as more guys recruit, decommit, flip. But right now we're sitting at number 22, according to 24/7. And from what I've seen is that Miami's really pushing hard with the secondaries and the linebackers for this class. We've seen over the last 2 classes where Mario Cristobal really goes in on specific position groups. In his first year, it was very hard on the offensive line, getting guys like Antonio Tripp or Samson Okunlola or Francis Mawanoa, who was a starter as a freshman last year. And this year, for 2024, we saw that he really went in on the defensive line, and then with the wide receivers too, where you got guys like Nye Card, Josiah Trader. We made the late push for Jeremiah Smith, which we almost had him. He was right there. And then obviously with the defensive line, which I said it earlier, it was the number 1 defensive line class in the country. So that's really what I'm hearing. And so it's really just about the secondary. And one of those big fish is DJ Pickett, who, if I look at it here, he is the number 7 player in the country, number 3 cornerback, and the number 1 player in the state of Florida. So that would obviously be a huge get to keep a guy like that home rather than him go to a Georgia or an LSU or even go to somewhere like Florida State, which last year they did very well with recruiting the secondary position. Maybe not in the trenches, but, you know, they did.
Think we might have lost you there, Alex, if you can still hear me. We've got your camera okay, but I think we lost your audio.
Oh, hello?
There we go. We got you back.
No, the mic said it unplugged, so whatever. But yeah, that we're really focusing on the secondary specifically with a guy like DJ Pickett, who he's the top player in the state of Florida, top 10 in the country. And rather than him going to, you know, a Georgia, it would be great to keep someone like that home and build up the tradition of great secondaries at Miami.
Folks, this is a perfect night to ask questions, get your comments in. We will scan those through the live chat. I'm also looking at the comments that have come in during the week. So if I find anything here of interest, one thing comes to mind that we talked about certainly last week, because I think the over-under win totals came in. I don't know if you're a big betting guy, Alex, but Miami's sitting at 9.5. And what really caught my eye, if you go beyond the surface of just the 9.5 win total, because of course you see the number, then you go to the schedule, regardless of the team, and then you start to figure out, okay, is this a number I can take advantage of? But I did a video, let's say, on a number of these win totals throughout the country, the Big Ten in particular, and there was an obvious lean from Vegas. On every team in the Big Ten, for example, there was a lean to say, okay, the number might be 9.5, but Vegas is very much thinking they're going to be over because they're paying out all the money on the other side. So what I found interesting about Miami's number at 9.5 is that Florida State and Clemson are also at 9.5. So that was the top number for the ACC. And the payout for all three is almost exactly the same, which is telling me that Vegas is expecting that to be a down to the wire finish between those three, which I'm surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense the why, because you look at Mario, he's had success wherever he's gone, and we improved on the 5-7 last year, and we improved the roster, improved the talent, especially at the most important position, quarterback, week schedule. So it makes that our line makes sense. Florida State, they lost a lot of production. I think they're one of the teams with the least amount of returning production. And then when you look at their transfer portal, yeah, they brought in some guys with talent. Like, I'm not going to deny that, but it is a lot of unproven guys that were backups elsewhere, like places at Alabama and stuff like that. But they have a good coach in Mike Norvell. And again, it's the ACC, so it'll be a favorable schedule. So that one makes sense. And Clemson really seemed to turn things around in the second half of the season. And again, we know their history. We know that up until this year, they'd won 10-plus games for almost a decade. You know, Dabo Swinney's still a good coach, even though he refuses to use the transfer portal. And I think that's going to bite him in the ass, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, all those lines make sense. And Clemson plays Florida State. Miami plays Florida State. So if there was someone I would take the under on in that situation, and again, this is no shot, and people are going to say this is my Miami bias or whatever, it would probably be Florida State, just because of they don't have as much talent returning. I don't think DJ Ugalele is honestly that good of a quarterback either.
No, he's not. He's capable. I'll put him in the capable range.
He won't. I don't think he'll lose a game for you egregiously, but he's definitely not going to win it for you. He's not Jordan Travis. He'll win a game for you. I've seen Jordan Travis win games for you. I was at the Florida State game in 2022 when I was visiting a buddy of mine, and he got us into that game, and I literally watched him live win that game for Florida State. If you had DJU out there, they lose that game. And it's plain and simple. Jordan Travis did it a million times where he would just win them those games. But if there was someone I would take there, it would probably be Florida State. And I could be wrong. I had them going 10-2 last year. They ran the table, went 13-0. You don't, like I said last time I was on here, you still have to play the games. Right now it's all just guesses and up in the air, and we don't even know if these are the final rosters or anything.
I got a stat for you, Alex, that may make you think I don't know if you make season predictions outside of Miami, if you look at the whole country or the ACC or what you do there, but this may make you think a little bit, because it hit me about 5 or 6 years ago when I'm looking at Athlons and Street and Smiths and all these preseason publications. I thought, you know what? And I went back to the previous year because I used to keep them every year. And I went back 2 or 3 years and I started looking at all these predictions, and it hit me. These magazines, for as good as they are with information, they're not necessarily bad at making predictions, but they're extremely conservative, meaning their top five is always, and I get it with the top five because the top five is almost always Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, etc. But after that, I thought, okay, I'm going to start to keep track. Well, you don't need to keep track. You can go through every year. You could do this back before the beginning of time. And I thought, let's see, how much does college football, how much do these teams change? I know the very elite stay the same all the time. But after that, is there much change in college football? Because there doesn't seem like there is. So I thought, okay, what's a good benchmark? And I picked 3 games, meaning if you're 6-6 one year and you elevate to 9-3, that's a considerable change. Or if you're 6-6, you go to 3-9. So I picked just arbitrarily 3 games as being significant, a 3-game change from one season to one season. And I started to go through each season for like 5 or 6 years, and I counted how many teams in the Power 5 have that kind of change from year to year. And then when we would do call-in shows, I would ask fans just to get their barometer and say, how many out of the 70 Power 5 teams, and it was like 65 a couple of years ago, how many do you think from one year to the next have a 3-game swing, at least a 3-game swing from year to year? And the guess was always 6, 7, maybe 10. So what would be your guess on how many teams in the Power 5 typically have that drastic of a change from one year to the next?
20.
Yeah, that's a good guess. And maybe I phrased it in such a way that led you to that number to a certain extent, but that's a really good guess.
I was originally around like 15.
It's usually about 18 to 22. Last year was 25. 25 out of 70 teams in the Power 5 had that much of a drastic change from one season to the next. So that's happening like clockwork. So when I throw out some win totals that are possible, people are like, well, you're crazy. You're crazy. That's never going to happen. They're never going to be able to win that many games. Well, somebody is, because it's going to happen with somebody. So, of course, with Miami, that would have to be a 10-2 season. But
Yeah.
that's what it would have to be for them. Now, with Florida State going 12-0 in the regular season, they could drop to 9-3, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I had us finishing this year 8-4.
I think I did too.
And I would have been dead on with that if we could knee the ball, but whatever. Or if the ACC could get a review right because Don Chaney's knee was down, but that's in the past. We'll let it die. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I try to be conservative, but I still try to be realistic. I did go balls to the wall with 2022. I said we were going to go 10-2 because I thought Tyler Van Dyke was like a Heisman candidate, and I looked at that schedule, but obviously we went 5-7. Again, you just have to play the games. It is fun to make predictions, but right now, if I were to look at it, I've seen the schedule. Florida's not going to be that good. A lot of people are weirdly saying that USF is a trap game, which, like, yeah, I think they'll be a good group of 5 team, but like, come on.
By the way, you bring up USF. I just saw a 247 sports writer, a guy, Brad Crawford, who I've had on many times, listed USF as a dark horse playoff contender.
Yeah, I've seen people say that. Which, hey, if they make it, good for them. But we should handle USF. Like, come on, I don't know why that's.
Which again, it's a group of 5, so it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a legitimate playoff team. Liberty, made the playoff last year, or they would have. Sorry, they would have made the playoff, yes, in a 12 team, and they got obliterated by Oregon. In the
quick change of topic. What is your opinion on the 12-team playoff?
So during this entire playoff era, my initial response to the 4-team was, okay, we've got 5 conferences. Why do we only have 4 teams? So there's going to have to be an argument and a issue every year. So I wasn't big on the 4 teams, but I just thought, well, at least it affords 2 more teams that are in the discussion that are worthy of competing for a championship spot. But I didn't like the way it was formulated. Okay, my other gripe with the 14 playoff was always, what do you do with a group of 5? Either include them formally or exclude them formally. Do one of two things: either
Yeah.
include them or exclude them. Don't patronize them by making them think that they're truly considered. With Cincinnati one year, but it had to be the stars had to align.
Certain teams had to lose. They had to beat Notre Dame. They had to go undefeated.
Yeah, just think about the irony of Cincinnati scheduling Notre Dame, which at the time that game was scheduled, I looked it up, it was 10 years in advance, like every other game. There was no thought to, this game's going to decide a playoff spot. It was just arbitrarily scheduled and just happened to coincidentally be the exact game that Cincinnati needed to play to make the playoff. Otherwise, these group of 5 teams have just been patronized. I don't think there's any question that well, the other ironic thing about this, Alex, as well, is now that we're moving to a 12-team playoff, the group of 5 was not given a official spot, and now they are, and the group of 5 is weaker than it's ever been. The best group of 5 programs have left the group of 5. If you go through the playoff era, Houston was at one point the best group of 5. Then it was UCF. Then it was Cincinnati. It's been BYU. They're all gone. And now SMU, who just won the American Conference and could have been that New Year's 6 team. They've gone into the ACC. So at the same time that the group of 5 is lessening in quality, it's being given a position. So people just have to be okay with this. Should be the 11 best teams in the country, roughly within a 1 or 2 positions. And then like the 40th or 50th best team in the country. And that's what it's going to be. So I'm okay with that because I think we've at least gotten to a place where nobody can complain about missing the playoffs. Sure, there's going to be an argument. And shoot, I posted a video this week looking at what a 12 team and what a 14 team, since that's been the discussion as well, what a 14 team playoff would have looked like the last 10 years. And there are log jams of teams at 9-3. So there are going to be tough decisions to be made. But you can't sit there and say, we're 9-3, we got ripped off. Well, maybe you did. Maybe you did have a better resume than the team that got selected, but you can't reasonably say, hey, we got ripped off. You had an opportunity and you lost 2 or 3 football games.
Yeah, I think 12 is too much. I'm one of those people where I'm romantic about the fact that the regular season means so much.
Yeah.
You look at other sports where it's like, just to use an example with 2 of my local teams, like I'm a Heat and a Panthers fan, right? The Heat over the past 5 years in the playoffs have been one of the most successful teams with getting to the finals twice, getting on the doorstep of the finals. And in the regular season, they just don't care that much. I mean, you literally see a guy like Jimmy Butler where he kind of coasts, and then in the playoffs, he really turns it on. So it's like a lot of Heat fans, it's like, well, watch during the playoffs. They don't care. Like they're not going to put in the full 100%. It doesn't really matter. Hockey, the Florida Panthers right now are comfortably in a playoff spot. So every night, I see it on the ice because I watch every game. They're playing at like 50, 60, maybe 70% effort because they're already comfortably in a playoff spot. And last year they made it to the finals as an 8 seed also. So it's like it only really matters once you start playing a 7-game series. We're comfortably in a playoff spot with home ice advantage. Like, why would it matter? So what I'm not gonna like seeing is the 9-3 teams getting in. Is these late season games where it's like, it doesn't really matter too much who wins or loses because both these teams are so comfortable up the rankings, and it's a 5 versus 4 game. Like, who's really gonna drop that much to drop them out of the playoff? I mean, just think of the tension of a game like 2013 Auburn versus Alabama, where it's a top 5 clash against hated rivals, and it's a game that decided who would have gone to the national championship game, who would have gone to the SEC championship game. You have Michigan versus Ohio State these last 2 years, where it was a game where the winner's going to the Big Ten title game, and they're going to win because no one in the West has a shot, and they're going to the playoff. And I'm not going to say 4 was the perfect number. For me, I would say if you're going to expand it, do 6, where the top 2 teams like have a bye, the other 4 play it out, and then you move on. But I just think 12 is it's way too much, and it's going to be devaluing too much. And it's just going to be taking away, because you look at so many of like a wide right, just to bring up a Miami example, those games decided national championships, and it was a regular season game. No other sport or league really has that. I mean, the NFL regular season matters, but still, like, you can have a losing record and win your division in the NFL and make the playoffs. We've seen it multiple times happen with the Washington football team or the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, this is really the only sport that the regular season means that much.
Yeah, I don't agree or disagree with anything that you said, although there are a few other angles to it. So you brought up Ohio State and Michigan, and there's really real concern among those fan bases. And I think people that look at the entire playoff because of what you just stated, because if those two schools continue to dominate the Big Ten, and that's going to be challenged, of course, with Oregon and USC coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But still, if they do, then, and I think it gets magnified because they play the last game of the season. So if they got to turn around and play a Big Ten championship game right after they just played, and to your point, the last 3 years, not only have they been undefeated and playing for a college football playoff berth, we can even bypass the Big Ten title game, like you just said. If there was a Big Ten championship game that would have allowed both of them to play, that game would have been even more meaningless because they were both so far in front of the rest of the conference.
Yeah,
neither one of them even had to win to get into the, like, it was like a bye week in the NFL. Like, it was one of those like week 17 games in the NFL where teams like,
I genuinely believe you would have seen Jim Harbaugh been like, should we play Blake Corum this week? We're already in.
Well, we got to play, and we got to play the same team next week.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been like, have been like this year where it was Dolphins versus Bills in the last week, where it was like, that's for the division. That's what these games have been these last few years, where it's like if the Bills lost, yeah, they would have played the Dolphins, but still, like, if they win, then they don't have to play the Dolphins, and they go home and they have like home field advantage up until they have to play Baltimore and all that stuff. And now you just take that away. You're just taking it away, and you're not gonna have games anymore like 2019 LSU versus Alabama, where it was like whoever wins this game is going to win the national championship, because you had guys like Jerry Jeudy, Tua battling Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, both those defenses with all the talent they had, and it was just, one of the greatest games we've seen, and now it's just going to be like,
Yeah, so you're right. And then there's a possibility. And again, I think Ohio State and Michigan is the most egregious example because we know that they play every year. Like, you could say the same about Georgia, Alabama, but they won't play every year in the SEC because of the way the scheduling goes.
Yeah.
But Ohio State, Michigan play. We're going to see at some point, we're going to see two teams play 3 times in a season.
Yep.
That's going to get really, I think the first time I see, and again, I'll go back to the Ohio State, Michigan example, those two teams playing a Big Ten championship game, there's going to be a novelty to it. And it's going to be kind of interesting one time to see them rematch.
Yeah.
But after that, it's going to be like, this is overkill. The special quality of great matchups that you're talking about, rivalries, is going to lose it.
Because this is what's going to happen. You're going to get, in this hypothetical world, Ohio State week 15 beats Michigan. All the Ohio State fans are chirping and talking shit on Twitter. What are the Michigans going to say? We're playing next week, bro. This game didn't matter. Who cares? Who cares? Besides the fact that you notched one closer in the all-time series, or you got one ahead, because I don't know who's ahead in that all-time series. I imagine it might be Michigan. Yeah. But you notched one closer. Who cares? We're playing you next week. And guess what? We dropped to number 4. You're number 1. Even if we lose, we'll drop to number 8. We're still in the playoff. We might see you in the Natty. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. So I totally get everything that you're stating there. Although it could
plus
also
the fact, just one more point, that when you look,
we got you.
Okay, yeah, I thought I froze for a second. That when you look at all these years of the playoff, it's even arguable that there were 4 teams worthy of being there. Did you catch me? Hello?
Yeah. So you said something about
That when you look at all these years of the playoff, it's even arguable that there were 4
oh,
teams
gotcha.
worthy.
Yeah, because there are blowouts in the playoffs. Yeah.
I mean, the only years you can really think of are 2014, which is mute because Ohio State went on to win the national championship game. So there you go. And then 2017 Alabama, where they got in as a team that didn't even make the conference championship, but again, they won the national championship game. And then this year with the whole Florida State debacle, which is why I'm saying maybe if you wanted to expand, which I think 4 was good, because a lot of years there's really only 2, 3, 4 teams, 5 teams max that can really compete for a national title. This year there was 6 teams worthy of a playoff spot, but I think that even with Jordan Travis healthy, Florida State would have gotten not destroyed, but handily defeated in that first round by Michigan, because Michigan was just on a different mission this year. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it. I've even seen some people talk about even the BCS was better, which I don't know about all that, but I like the playoff. I thought 4 teams was the perfect number just because there was never really an excuse to go more beyond that outside of a few fan bases were crying. And then now the CFP committee gets to go, ooh, we have more important games, and that means more revenue and more money, and we get to play at more NFL stadiums. And it's just, oh my, it's just turned into, it's a sport run by people that don't actually care about college football, and they're just looking at a bottom line.
So the only pushback I'll have again concerning what games matter, and I totally get your point, totally agree. I'm right there with you on there being the elite of the elite that are like, we're 12-0. Okay, we lose this game to finish the season, or we're 11-0, whatever. We're the 1 seed, the 4 seed, whatever.
Yeah,
I get that. However, at least they've incentivized it. Conference champions get buys. So there is that incentive that you win your conference championship, you get the bye, versus losing that enormous game the last weekend of the season, finishing 11-1, and you don't make your conference championship game, or you lose the conference championship game and you're a 7 seed instead of a 1 or a 2 seed with a bye. So there is that incentive there. The other counterpoint I'll make is that while, yes, there's no question, there will be a handful of games that become basically tainted, inconsequential, or somewhat, that used to be just, this is the end of the world. This is a must-win situation. It becomes okay, both of these teams are top 5 teams. They're fine. The loser doesn't matter. There's also going to be this group of games that I would argue is going to be a lot larger pool of games that go from being insignificant to significant. Because when LSU's playing Tennessee and it's the first week of November and they're both 7-2, right now that's just a decent game that people want to watch because it's LSU and Tennessee and they got talent, but nobody's going to the playoff. Versus now in a 12-team playoff, 7-2 versus 7-2. Okay, this becomes a big game. So there is going to be those games as well.
Yeah, but my counterpoint to that would be is the media might hype it up as significant, but there is going to be a large contingent of college football fans that are going to be like, you're saying this is significant, but it's not really, because we know team 1, 2, 3, 4 are the only real contenders.
So until you see a dark horse run.
Yeah, and even then they're gonna push these dark horses, and it's gonna be like a 9-3 Alabama team that just had a few missteps, and this underdog, scrappy Alabama team, and it's like, dude, they had the number 1 recruiting class in the country 2 years ago. They just fucked up some games. Like that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna give an out to these bigger like you're gonna see it. I already know you're gonna see it where it's gonna be week 15, LSU versus Vanderbilt or something, and LSU's 12-0, and it's Vanderbilt, and they're like, just rest the guys, let the backups in. It's Vanderbilt. If we lose, we drop a little bit. Okay, who cares? Like I already know you're gonna see college football teams resting. You're gonna see it, they're trying to make it the NFL light. That's what they're trying to do. And the thing that was special about college football is that the NFL at times feels so soulless and so corporate.
Yes.
But with college football, whether it's Rocky Top or the Tomahawk Chop or the Gator Chomp or the canes running out of the smoke or whatever your thing is, it was special, and the regional rivalries and all that stuff. Like in the NFL, we have 2 football teams here in Florida other than the Dolphins, and no one cares. I don't care about the Buccaneers. Like the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, and it was like, that's cool, I guess. But if Florida State won a national title, I'd be fuming. I'd be so mad. The same that they would be if Miami won a national title. I can't imagine how you felt watching Michigan win as an Ohio State fan. Like I bet you were probably like a little. Not, I wouldn't say mad, but you were like definitely salty. You were like, these sons of bitches, fucking. Oh my god! Now I'm gonna have to hear all summer on Twitter.
You're not allowed to say that though, Alex. I got a Michigan channel and a lot of Michigan people watch it.
I'm speaking for you. I'm saying. No, you do a good job of staying unbiased, but I know you were watching at home like these motherfuckers fucking. But yeah, I mean that's just gonna take so much out of it.
And to your point about the 12-team playoff, and this is one of my favorite stats about a 12-team playoff, and if a couple programs stay at the same level and it's not looking like they're going to be dropping. Ohio State last missed a 12-team playoff in 2004. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty much an automatic.
I mean, you run it on NCAA. Now on NCAA, you know, they have the modded game where you can mod in the 12-team playoff, and it's like I play NCAA and I mod in the 12-team playoff, and you look at it and it's like, dude, I have built up Miami to be like this absolute powerhouse. Why am I playing this random 10-3 Arizona team that I just crushed by 60 in the Fiesta Bowl? Like, come on, like what are we doing? And they think it's going to help with opt-outs and all that stuff. And yeah, I think less players will opt out, but then you also bring down the value of bowl games even more.
Yes. What's going to be interesting, and I hate to think that this could possibly happen. Think about this, Alex. Let's say you are Penn State and you're good, but maybe certain guys, agents, whomever, get in the ears of a particular player to say, you know what, you're a 9 seed. You've got to win 4 games. It's not like, boom, you're in a BCS national championship game, or you're in a college football playoff and boom, you're right there, 1 win and you're in the national championship. You got to win 4 consecutive games against a murderer's row. Do you want to beat your body up that much? I don't know that there won't be an opt-out at some point. I don't know if it's going to be next year or 5 years from now or at some point where somebody says,
we already had it with the 14 playoff. Jackson Smith and Jigba last year. He didn't play in the Georgia Ohio State game, right? Am I confusing?
You are correct.
Yeah, like he opted out. And that was with the 14 playoff.
Yeah, he wasn't in the best of health that entire back half of the season. So I don't know exactly where that stood, but yeah, he apparently could have played. Yes.
Yeah, and we already saw it in 2020 where you give these guys an out to declare for the NFL, they're going to take it. I mean, Greg Rousseau from Miami, which was a guy that we were like coming off 2019, it was like, he's going to be here 2020 and he's going to be lined up with Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche and the defensive lines. Oh, he opted out before even the season. Okay.
Yeah. But 4 games, that's
it's
football.
It's okay. Yeah, you're a 9 seed. All right, you have to go on the road to the big house. You got to beat Michigan. And then you got to go play Alabama, play Georgia, and then play Florida State in the national championship game to win. You look at that and you're like, oof, okay. Okay, because it's not like this isn't basketball. This isn't basketball where you can have a 64 team tournament and game after game after game. Hell, even in hockey they play 82 games in a regular season, and then it's 4 rounds of best of 7 series. And hockey's still a physically demanding sport. Imagine football.
Yeah. And the wear and tear of playing those type of opponents 4 times is probably the same as playing 7 or 8 games of playing Wake Forest and Virginia Tech or whoever during the regular season.
Yeah, and people like to make fun of the SEC, but I've said it for years. They are so smart for all these teams scheduling that one crappy FCS school in November just to give themselves a little break. It's technically not a bye week, but it's a bye week. Yeah. And it's a bye week in a spot where you need it.
I completely agree. I've always defended that. Not that they should be allowed to do that, but if there's no governing body, no commissioner to regulate these things, then why wouldn't you do that? They don't get penalized for it.
It's the same thing with that I was saying last time with NIL. People were talking about you paid Cam Ward and this and that, and it's like, did we do anything wrong? I'll take a shot at George right now. You got all these Florida Gator fans talking about all our players, they only left for money and this and that, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, well, they wanted the money. You weren't paying them. These other teams wanted to pay them for their services. They went elsewhere. Plus, your team's ass. They don't want to play there. No one did anything wrong. Sorry.
We appreciate the super chats, guys. We'll catch up to them right here. We've got Falconer TRX. Miami has many quarterbacks who will break out.
This was something I wanted to talk about when we were talking about the position battles, but we shifted to a different conversation, and I'm glad Falconer brought us back to it. We already know Cam Ward's the starter. I mean, we can just pencil that in. There's not going to be a quarterback competition. He's the guy. But it will be very interesting. Jakari Brown stayed after not even just many people, but everyone. Everyone was saying this kid is gone. He's not staying here. His bowl game was basically just a look at me for other teams. That's what we were all saying. But he stayed. He wanted to compete. And he knew, and I'm not saying this because I have insider information, but because we know who Mario is as a coach, that he didn't bullshit him. He was saying, hey, we're going to bring in a guy. Next year is probably not going to be your year, but keep working because we like what you're doing. Otherwise, Mario, we've seen him do it. He would have just said, like, there's no spot for you here. Go find another place. We'll help you out. We'll put in a good word for you. But, they obviously still believe in Jakari. And it'll be I got a wire for my mic.
So there we go. We believe in Jakari. That's the last we heard.
Yeah, that they believe in Jakari, and it's going to be interesting to see. We saw the love that the fan base has for Emery, but Emery's not going to be in spring because of the arm injury, which prayers up to him. I hope he heals up well and he's back in time for fall and he's out there competing because if there's one thing that kid has, it's fucking guts. And I would love to see him succeed here at Miami. And you bring in a guy like Reese Poffenbarger, the Poff Daddy, where he led the FCS in passing yards. He took them to the playoffs, which a lot of people were like, oh, FCS quarterback, this, and that. And it's like, well, a lot of quarterbacks have come from the FCS and succeeded. Plus, he has 2 years of eligibility. He also probably knew, hey, we're still trying to bring in another guy. You're also going to be riding the bench. So that's going to be another very interesting battle to see where it's how does Judd stand up? As a true freshman, he's probably going to be – if Emery were healthy, I'd probably guess the quarterback depth chart would be Cam Ward 1, Reese 2, Jakari right on his tail just because Reese is the better passer, but Jakari can definitely improve on that. We saw him look better as a passer in the bowl game, but still not lights out. Emery 4 if healthy, and then Judd at 5. That's probably what I'd have the rotation as a quarterback depth chart at right now. But obviously, Jakari could step in there. He has all the talent in the world. He was a high 4-star for a reason. He's just obviously a very raw quarterback. But he has shown flashes, especially with his ability to scramble.
Good stuff. We got Leroy with a super chat contribution. 247 Sports keeps posting who would win 2019 LSU,
Yeah, I keep
2001
seeing that.
Canes. Who you guys got? Can I go first on this one because you'll have a lot more venom when it comes to this one? Joe Burrow's a better quarterback than, of course, Ken Dorsey. But other than that, like, what are we comparing here? We've got a quarterback. So both teams, obviously, there's NFL talent all over the place, but levels of NFL talent. There are levels to these things. And with LSU, you got an all-time great quarterback and elite receivers. And then the rest of the talent is good.
Yeah.
Miami's otherworldly, every position stacked. NFL all-time greats. It's not even a debatable topic.
I might surprise some people. I don't even like this debate. I don't like it. It's the same as in other sports where it's like, who's the GOAT? LeBron or Michael Jordan? It's different eras, different rules, different ways of playing the game. But if I do have to say one, I do say it's 2001 Miami. And yeah, Miami bias, whatever. But even you, without any dog in the fight, said the same thing, and so have many other people. Yeah, Joe Burrow, he had the greatest, not just statistical season, but just absolute being a dog out on that football field season that a quarterback has ever had. And then you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, really good college running back, kind of meddling in the NFL. Elite receivers, like you said, but then you just look at that Miami team, and not just on defense, but also on offense with Andre Johnson, Jeremy Shockey, the offensive line that they had, the embarrassment of riches they had at running back. And also another thing people overlook, that LSU defense, while talented, was not very great. It wasn't an elite defense. It was good enough for what they had offensively. Yeah. I think they gave up like 38 points to Vanderbilt in one game. Like I actually want to, like, I know it was in the 30s, but
they gave up like a 38 spot to Sam Ehlinger in Texas. They almost lost that game. That was the first or second game of the season. Yeah, they gave up 41. Now that was the aforementioned game that you hit on, Tua and that group. That's understandable. But
yeah. And then Vanderbilt, yeah, they beat Vanderbilt 66-38, which
the only thing I'll say about that is once games get to a certain point, I don't know that scores really matter. But yes, they did not have a great defense. Their defense got better near the end of the season, but it was not being a great defense.
And I think that the most telling stat of it all, and where I'm going to end the discussion and the argument, is if you take away every single point that Miami scored on offense and just count special teams and defense, 8-4 would be the record that team would have had. If the offense was an Iowa offense, like Iowa level, worse than Iowa, literally 0 points, they go 8-4. I'm like, come on. Like, that's insane. And it also stacks up with the competition when you play teams like a really good Syracuse team, a good Washington team who you drub on national television. Nebraska with the Heisman winner, Eric Crouch, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, which one of the weaker Heisman winners, but whatever, still a Heisman winner. And it was still a good Nebraska team. But yeah, man, I mean, that Miami team was just different. And I don't think 2013 Florida State, 2005 Texas, 04 USC, 08 Gators. I don't think anyone compares to that team.
Yeah, I'm not going to debate that right now. I tend to agree with you. I would want to do a little deeper analysis. If I was going to start anywhere, I would start with those Pete Carroll USC teams. That's where I would actually start.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think so.
I think it'd be a good game, especially because you can compare eras easier because it's around the same time. It's a lot easier than with 2019 LSU, where now like the game has shifted so much more to offense and catering to offense. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't really think of any.
All right. I think we have done enough work for a Wednesday night. Unless there's anything else you wanted to hit on, I don't think anyone in the chat has anything else.
No, I think I'm okay. Just seems to be a war in the comments section between George, and he's fighting for his life against Miami fans.
That's George.
I've just been looking. I've just been looking over. Look, I hate Florida, but I respect George, man. He's putting up a hell of a fight. God damn, he is. George is standing on business right now. Like, I'm looking at this.
George is great. George has probably commented, not probably, he has definitely commented to our channels more than anyone in the history of the Voice of College Football.
No, I've not known him. Like, I don't know George, but like I've known of George since about like 2019, because I remember leading up to the Miami like UF game in 2019. He was just in Coach Coop's comment section, just talking so much shit in that comment section. I think he even called into the live stream being like, oh, we're gonna roll Miami and this and that. Like, he has just been at this for years, and I honestly respect it. From like respect 100%.
Yeah, George is great. George is great. We love George. Again, he has commented to the channel, not necessarily recently. He doesn't have the recent run. We've got a handful that are just, I'll open up my comments and see. Literally, there was a guy the other day had 33 comments made in the span of 24 hours. Now, I'm not talking about like a one-line I'm talking about paragraphs. We've got a handful of those guys, but we appreciate you because you keep us going. But George, all time, has the record. Absolutely. Alex, appreciate you doing this. You made us keep our commitment here this week. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's no problem. I'm always glad to hop on and just talk some Canes, or even just, college football playoff expansion, whatever it is.
But I feel your passion about what college football should be, what it's been, rivalries.
Yeah, I mean,
regionality, all that.
I've already seen one sport like sort of go down the drain, in my opinion, with basketball, with all the flopping and just everything's about the 3-point shot and analytic and defense in the NBA is legitimately dead. Like, defense in basketball just doesn't exist anymore. So I've already seen that die. I don't need another one, man. Especially when it's my favorite sport, the only sport I hold season tickets to, college football, as a Canes fan. I mean, I don't need that.
So I'm guessing, since I haven't watched an NBA game since LeBron's last finals with the Cavs, like whenever that was, 2018.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that most NBA games are just decided by who misses the most shots, since you say there's no defense being played.
It's not even just that, but also just like all these guys are just baiting for contact, and like the most insufferable to me are just like guys like Joel Embiid or Jason Tatum on Boston, where like the Heat, being a Heat fan, they play Boston a lot. Like, it's a legit like heated rivalry where there is as much hate as I'd say like Miami, Florida State, just in terms of like the vitriol on Twitter between these two fan bases. And I just can't stand watching them play and playing them, not because it's like, oh, they kick our ass or whatever. Like, we own them. They've only beaten us once in the playoffs over the past like 12 years. But just because they have a player like Jason Tatum, where every time you watch him and he drives into the paint, he's always running down the court after he misses a shot, flailing his arms in the air, like looking at the ref, like, where's the call? Where's the foul? Like, I went to a game last year in the conference finals against them where he had 30 points. Half of that, literally half, 15 points were off free throws. And it's just like, dude, like, that's not real. Like, you're just driving in there looking for any sort of contact, and you get the whistle because you're a star. But whatever.
That's why I always thought, when there's a game on the line and the point guard has the ball in his hand, and let's say his team's down by 2 points, I never understood the pull up, fade away, let's just kind of chuck it up, drive that thing to the rim, and force that referee to make a call, because most of the time he's going to make a call.
No, I mean I've seen it happen. 2020 when the Heat went to the finals, we literally won a game because Jimmy Butler was at the rim and he got fouled and it was tied. And the clock ran out as he was being fouled, and the ref said, "The clock's at 0. Jimmy will shoot 2 free throws. If he makes 1, they win the game." And that's it. All he had to do was make 1 free throw. He made it, and we won the game. A playoff game, not even just a playoff game, to go up like 2-0 in the series. So yeah, it's just ridiculous. And then you'll see it where it's like, it's probably the most rigged sport in terms of like people like to talk about college football, the refs favor SEC bias, this and that. In the NBA, they have like legit star bias, legit like you play a team like Boston with like a rich history, or a team like Milwaukee where they have a superstar. Like that other team is going to get a much easier whistle than you are. And like very marginal ticky-tack contact, they'll call it every time. But whatever, that's just what basketball is becoming. It's basically unwatchable at this point.
All right, so I will continue not to watch it then. Sounds
like. No, save yourself. Football's better. If you want a sport that's still going strong, get into hockey. Hockey's probably my favorite sport next to football. They're right there.
I respect hockey. I always have. I just never got it because I never played it. Therefore, I don't understand it. To me, it's just guys like. I've
never played hockey either. But the first time I went to a hockey game, I was looking at how fast they were moving and how fast they were shooting this puck, and I was like, "Yo, this is awesome. Like, this is awesome right here." And I just got into it, and then now like just luckily my team's good, you know, and I don't know, it's just fun. Like hockey's definitely the most fun sport to attend.
Folks, one last thing. We've got an Amazon link. It's in the chat. It's in the description section of all the videos. And if you use it, it's exactly the way you shop on Amazon now. There's no difference. So you might as well use our link. We appreciate it. Helps us build the channel. Alex, appreciate you being here. You know you can jump on at any time and talk some Canes with us. But thanks for filling the spot tonight.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always here. Like I said earlier, always fun to just talk Canes.
No doubt. No doubt. All right, everyone. Next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Our next show is the Clemson guys. Get on the Clemson channel 7 o'clock on Thursday night. So we'll see you then.